Hey guys, this is Magnus. Been a couple weeks since my last videos. Had a couple that I did, but didn't really like the way they turned out. Didn't like the topics on one of them, so I haven't produced another tutorial type video. This will not be a tutorial. This is just going to be a game replay that I just had. Just finished this game and liked the way it turned out, so I'm going to share it. I'll go through some basics as I'm going through this. That way it's not just a straight shoutcast. It won't really be a shoutcast at all, but that way you can at least learn a little bit while you're enjoying the game. And it gets me in the habit of continuing to produce videos. A couple weeks is a bit long to go without doing any of that. So here this game is. Per usual against Protoss, I'm going 9 Overlord with a 10 Drone Scout. This Overlord, I'm going to actually duck down because I'm anticipating a Forge Back Expand. I just want to catch to see if there's any fast gas on this side, and hopefully the Nexus. I actually missed the Nexus on this one. Cut a little too early going down this way. And that's why this drone ends up going all the way up to the top of this ramp, because I missed the Nexus and therefore don't know to turn it back around. As you can see here, this is a pylon at the top of the ramp. So this definitely is not a Forge Fast Expand. He's going a Gateway first. The second I see Gateway first, even if I don't see what the gases are at, I'm going to assume 4-gate. I'm going to prepare myself for it. So that is going to explain why this drone comes up and drops a proxy hatchery right here. Like I said, I do not like 4-gates at all. They're a pain in the butt to defend against, so I'm going to do everything I can to screw up this 4-gate. As we're going to see here as we progress, this is not actually going to be a 4-gate. And looking at this player's rating, I actually found out that he hasn't been 4-gating. All of his matches recently have been a double Immortal Warp Prism all-in with +1. It's a bit later than a 4-gate. It goes off of 4-gates, but he's killed every single player he's fought, except for me, in 10 minutes, about 10 to 14 minutes. So this is obviously a really good strategy that he's pulling out here. An all-in, granted, but a really good strategy. Get some wins. Seeing my proxy hatch down here, I think this was a poor decision to skip the Zealot. It's probably just part of his build order, and that's why I didn't get it. But the Zealot would have DPS'd this down a lot quicker than the Stalker is going to. He starts dropping cannons here. Bit lucky to get that cannon down before the creep started spreading on his part. But as we can see in the production facility, or production zone, whatever it's called, I've got a Roach Warren and Lings on the way. I am actually going to break this. This wasn't just a block to try to slow him down. As you can see, I'm rallying my Lings right over to the cannon to try to kill it. Just one thing beforehand, this is going to be full of mistakes. This is not a Grandmaster's level play, but it is a fun match to watch. We see more lanes running in here. I do not realize at this point that this area right here can allow Lings through. That's why I'm focusing down the gateway. Had I known that, this cannon would be dead already and he would be in deep trouble. I do have my roaches on the way, which is going to make this a lot easier. That first roach is going to destroy this cannon. Oh, not going to destroy that cannon. I guess the next one. He's got more cannons going down, and I see the Robo facility here producing Immortals. So actually, what I'm going to say about this is, if you see a player going one base, I believe the correct response is always to go Hydralisks, because out of all the things that he could be doing, one base Blink Stalker, one base Colossus, one base Robo, Immortal, Warp Prisms. Out of all those things, it's only the Colossus that will beat your Hydras. You'll see after I get this hatch up and going, which could have come down, I think, slightly quicker, but looking at my food, maybe not. Or looking at my money, rather. I'm I am going to go for a Spire play. That is not correct, I don't think. The other thing I could have done here is I could have made a Queen and dropped a Tumor here, or actually a Tumor down here outside of the range of the cannons, that just to block his structures for a while longer and to keep a sight on these. This Overlord will get away. Bad that I let it get this low down, but you know, whatever. Not GM level mode again. Out of this, I will be transitioning into a more normal build, though I'm keeping this Overlord here to watch this base. If he expands, then I'll keep on expanding. Otherwise, I'm going to grab 3 hatches and then start producing units non-stop, because he's obviously going to follow this up with an all-in. Here we go. Here's the 4 gates I was talking about. 4 gates plus 1 with the 2 Immortals, and then he's going to get a Warp Prism. That way he doesn't have to use proxy pylons, and he can also warp in on creep. Again, a very strong build, though it is an all-in. I've got a nice concave here on top. As a Zerg player, always try to get a concave when you're fighting defensively, because you need every advantage you can get against Protoss and Terran. Here I'm just moving the Overlord out of the way because this is way too long to go without a Nexus, and I don't really want to lose this Overlord. He might not get seen if he's just running his units over here or something. So right here we'll watch the ramp for any units. Could be another 1 or 2 hexes over and still have view of the ramp, but the idea here is just that I can see the Nexus pops up, I can see the ramp, and that's all I really need to see. I don't need him to be over here where the Protoss player can see him. Anyway, following up, getting drone saturation. Get that as quickly as possible after one of these crazy openings. That way you can afford anything you want. Again, we always want to try to fall back to macro. And as soon as this layer pops up, you're going to see a Spire. Again, Spire units are really, really weak against Gateway units, so not the best choice on my part. But it is going to let me snipe the Warp Prism later on, much later on in this game, towards the end. So it has its uses. Getting my Zergling speed up, getting my EVO chamber for upgrades up, everything pretty normal here. There's his Immortals, carried him over. Okay, yeah, that's everything he has right now. So we are getting ready to see the attack. I'm spreading creep here. Again, keeping your basics down, going even in weird situations will help you a lot. Also, here's another thing. Using your queens to focus down Warp Prisms is the correct thing to do. Always pull all your queens and get that Warp Prism out of there as soon as possible. That way he cannot reproduce. And then using your roaches to start target fighting the Immortals is the next action you need to do. There we go. Immortals are all gone. Immortals just deal so much damage. That's why you need to get them out of there as quickly as possible. Your links can hold the Protoss player more or less in place long enough to get rid of the Immortals, assuming that he doesn't have 1,000,000 units. That's mostly just for small attacks like he just had. Obviously, every single time try to get to the Immortal, but if you don't make it, don't worry. I will be going to it for a counterattack, but at the same time, in just a moment, as I'm gearing up for this, you will see a drone coming down. Here he is, to plant this hatch here. Do not all in, like I said last time. After your opponent all ins, go ahead and take another base, get some more units, and then try to break them. I got my units gathered up here. I've got my extra base, so now I can go attack them and see if I can't deal any damage. Really bad force field right there. I think that was just one of those things his hand slipped. I'm not going to say that he was trying to force field here. I think he was actually going for the ramp and just panicked a little bit. This is obviously too many units for my roaches to kill, so I'm going to come in here and just get as much damage on probes and stuff as I can. Also, like with Marines, if you ever play Terran, you pull your roaches back into little pockets in the mineral line, and that's excellent against Zealots. Otherwise, Zealots are going to destroy your roaches, which is why in battle you want to micro your roaches around to keep them away from Zealots. My third base is not quite up yet, so I'm going to just make units for now to help defend any future pushes. And then once this base gets up, then you'll see me start to produce some more drones to saturate it. Again, here's the Fallout Spire. Should have been Hydroden. Hydrodens are a lot better against gateway-focused armies, barring Colossi anyway. Also, it will help me. It would have helped me snipe the Warp Prism anyway. I could have probably had him up here and sniped the Warp Prism right here. Live and learn, right? Live and learn. Another thing, always try to get creep tuners on the opposite side of brush as quickly as possible, because unless you have an overlord here like I do, you're not going to be able to see that, so you won't be able to actually spread the creep by yourself. Creep tuners should really be able to, you know, function without any kind of help. For example, you see me pull my queen back here to this base to start injecting, so I'm going to need to get vision somehow over here if I want to continue spreading creep. This is actually going to go really rough for me, because he's going to go and clear out 4 or 5 overlords and get me very heavily supply blocked. And then I'm not going to be able to produce enough units to defend this push. Again, I'm getting the concave right here, setting the concave up. These units actually need to be back a little bit more, and these units a little bit further, just because, as you can see, if he engages at the top here, towards the top here anyway, he'll aggro these roaches here before the rest of these, whereas if these two groups were a little more evenly spread, they would all get aggroed at the same time. There you go. There goes those ones. This is some miss micro on my part again, where I'm trying to queue up the attacks on the Immortals, but I accidentally, you see the green line? That's a movement queue. So I wasn't dealing damage for a little bit there, and the Immortal lives. So now he's got a huge army instead of a much smaller army, and I have no army. Again, I'm going to be I was severely supply blocked rather in the middle of that, so I couldn't make units right away. I've got all these overlords popping. Here comes my Mutalisks. Like I said, I get the chance to snipe this prison because of this, because of the Mutalisks, but they don't deal very well with any of the rest of the units. And I could have just sniped that Warp Prism by having Hydras up here and shooting off the ledge, and then they would have high ground advantage against the Stalkers, and the Stalkers wouldn't be able to attack them. Nothing would have been able to attack them. I could have gotten free kills. These drones could have been pulled a little bit earlier. Oh well, you know. Here, I've got a whole bunch of units. Very important thing here. You're seeing me adjust my rally points. The second he gets up this ramp, my rally points go way back here. You do not want to rally everything to the same place, because unlike Terran or Protoss, all your units don't come out in the same place, so you're going to have just little groups. If I had just rallied those roaches down here with the rest of them, they would have been instantly obliterated. Whereas in that group, or in that situation, I got the chance to rally over here and then come in and snipe a Immortal. Here, Roach micro, you know, you must micro against Zealots, okay, with Roaches, because Zealots do beat Roaches one-on-one, unfortunately. It's only because of your micro and keeping them away from the Zealots that your Roaches can win. Getting a nice surround with the Broodlink there is pretty good, I gotta say. And here, this is pretty simple from here. I just gotta continue moving my Roaches and pick these off one by one, up until right there. This confused me at first. I thought he just rage quit, but going back into the replay, we look back and he's all mined out and never built an Expo and only has 150 minerals. So this actually was completely all in, which also explains why this Warp Prism wasn't warping in. And I get away with 2 bases here. I mean, even if he somehow managed to kill all my roaches up here, I could still rebuild down here and be in basically the same shape he was if he did have this Nexus. You know, borrowing him having as many units plus the extra units from his income. Fact of the matter is that those 400 minerals that he would have invested in Nexus would have been a lot less units, plus he would have built more probes, which would have been less units, so that attack wouldn't have had as many units if it wasn't an all-in. And I would have been in better shape and might have held it down here, possibly, or maybe even at the ramp. So, I mean, there's that. Just to review a couple things here, it was a pretty exciting game. I liked, you know, the proxy hatch right here to screw this up. And then I did some damage and forced out a lot of photon cannons, which were not gateways or warping in units right away. Against a gatewaying player, a one-basing player, I do advise going for Hydras. They have very high DPS, and they do very well so long as they have a buffer, such as Lings or Roaches, against the Protoss' army. When you're recovering from some kind of crazy opening, always make sure to return to your macro game, get your upgrades, get up to lair, get extra bases. Because I have these extra bases down here, this extra base down here, I have enough to produce, you know, 12 more Lings, 5 more Roaches, all these Roaches that I was producing all during that game, etc. That is the most important part of Zerg, is keeping an income flowing, because unlike Terran, who can just drop a whole bunch of mules, you do not have free incomers. Aside from that, you know, always keep an eye on what your opponent is doing. I saw the Robo here. I knew that he was going for some kind of Robo follow-up, and therefore I was prepared with Roaches for his Immortals. The Spire also was in response to that. I figured, he'll probably have some Immortals in a Warp Prism. My Spire can take care of that. And if he gets in Colossus, I could have Corruptors instead. Like I said, in retrospect, the Hydra Den probably could have been better, but the point here is that I was keeping tabs on him. I was making sure he didn't have this base, and I knew exactly where he's going with the Forge and the Robo, and therefore, on his first push that I crushed right here, I crushed it because I knew it was coming, and I actually spotted the Warp Prism coming by up here, so I knew to pull my queens down here to start attacking. Actually, just to rewind back to that part, one more thing I neglected to go over is when I see this Warp Prism coming over. Let's see, gotta wait till I get my units up. Should be just a moment. Pylon's going down. Ah, here we go. I positioned all my units up here because I'm expecting a 2 mortal drop into my main with a warp in. So that's the other thing you gotta worry about, okay? If you see a Warp Prism, which you should always have Overlords in between yourself and your opponent to catch that kind of thing. Same thing with Drots for Terran. Always pull your units up into the main, at least some of them, and then have your creep spread out. That way you, if he decides to change gears like he did, down to here, you can see it coming. And then, real basic thing, getting surrounds with Lings, setting them around the backside is also good tactics. So anyway, thanks for watching. I think this was actually a bit longer than I anticipated, but it was a fun game to watch, and there were things to learn from it. So, thank you for your time. Look forward to more videos from me. This is Magnus signing.